James at 16 will not be presented this evening, but will return next week at its regular time. Stay tuned now for a special 2-hour What Really Happened to the Class of 65.
Please support the Word Balloon podcast by going to patreon.com/wordballoon. Become a part of the League of Word Balloon listeners. That's patreon.com/wordballoon.
Kingdom Come is 4 separate issues, 48 pages apiece. It was an all-immersive kind of lifestyle for me.
It blew people away. I mean, this was the most sought-after book there was.
This was something very new, very different.
No one had seen anything like that at that scale before.
It was amazing.
I never thought from anything that people would still be talking about this book 25 years later.
There were voices and lightnings and thunderings. This was my dream.
Welcome back, everybody. It's time again for another Word Balloon Live, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here. Always happy to welcome my good friend, Sal Abbinanti, back to Word Balloon. Good to see you, buddy.
John, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being had. I'm very excited. We just saw the commercial for it, The Legend of Kingdom Come, not only available now on Blu-ray to order or digitally, but also starting to hit the festival circuit, including a screening this Saturday, May 10th, Word Balloon's 20th anniversary to the day at the Music Box Theater here in Chicago. I'm very excited for this.
Yeah, it was a long, I won't lie, it was a long time coming. I mean, in terms of getting it all organized, and these last 10 yards, John, have been rough. I mean, everything, all the Blu-rays have been sitting in customs, not going to get into the politics, but they've been sitting at the Canadian border, not because of tariffs and not because just for political reasons. And they've been literally sitting there for the last month. So all of our Kickstarter, fundraising and supporters, we've kept everybody up to date on what's going on. But at the end of the day, you know how it is. People don't really want to hear your excuses, but we've been fighting with customs, but now I found out this morning that they released them. So everything we're gonna get all the order fulfillments done.
That's great, man. Well, I don't know if you're going to be able to have them at the theater in time.
We're planning on it. But we got to see if they get to my buddy Chris in time in Ohio, and then he brings them. He's supposed to come out for it. I got to see what's going on, if he's going to come out for it or not. But that's the plan, was to have that stuff. But you know what they say, you want to hear God laugh, make plans. So
I'm with you, man.
Yeah.
Well, again, I kind of made the word known on social media, and I've been saying it on the show as well. If you're watching, and I have to stress watching, because if you're listening, by all means, you can still come Saturday night to the Music Box if you're in the Chicago area. But I do have a few free tickets left that if somebody is watching tonight that lives in the Chicago area and really is going to use the ticket, we can make it happen, right, Sal?
Yeah, that was kind of the plan, was, just as a friend of the show, because you're a local Chicago guy, and, we're good friends. I wanted to help the show in any way I can and help me at the same time, in the sense of, look, we just want people to see the film. I mean, yeah, we're offering, there's ticket packages and tickets and things like that, but to cover expenses, because, we had to rent the theater and all this stuff. But at the end of the day, we just want, you want people to go. So giving out, some comps and things like that through Word Balloon is kind of, it's a no-brainer. So.
King Sport Cal joining us and says Kingdom Come is a masterpiece and deserves to be documented. It kind of changed the game in comics. At least to me, it came at a good time. Sal, I can tell you from a personal experience, it's one of those mid-90s comics that brought me back to comics, because I just, coming out of college, as a lot of us do, don't have the disposable income. So I wasn't buying or anything. And also I'll be honest, the image revolution kind of turned me off a little bit. But
I think that was a little bit of what it was, John. I mean, I didn't realize until we were shooting with some of the Image guys, or talking to some of the Image guys, and then when I was talking to Jim Lee, I had no idea that the Image guys kind of felt that Kingdom Come was a swipe at Image. To my knowledge, I have never heard anything to that effect from Alex or anything else. So I don't know if, I mean, I guess it could be taken that way, but if you want to read into it, but I told Jim and I told Todd, because the funny thing about Todd was he was terrific interview. I mean, there was probably three guys that were great, and it was you, and it was Todd, and it was Brian Polito, and who really, I mean, there's a lot of good people in there, don't get me wrong, but they're not all, don't all give you good stuff. And Todd never read Kingdom Come. And so it was kind of funny. He had a lot of nice complimentary things to say about Alex, but I thought it was funny as hell. But I think maybe that's why that, he thought, to your point, he thought it was a snipe at Image, which it was not. So.
Well, again, for people who maybe don't know the story, King Sport Cal says it seemed like a swipe image to me. Essentially, this is well, let me tell you, let me describe it. And this is why maybe feel
Sure.
it was kind of a knock at Image's attempt at superheroes at the time. But this was the third generation of superheroes, if you count the Justice League as the original heroes in this story. Then you had the sidekicks, the Dick Graysons, the Roy Harpers, your Donna Troys.
Sure.
And then their kids are the current heroes that are out there at the beginning of the story, and they're out of control, and they're very extreme, and you see big weapons, and
it may very well have been, John. I mean, I don't know, but what I'm saying is, and I'm not just couching this, because at this point, who cares? I mean, the thing is the 25th, the 25th anniversary is next year, so it's like if that was Alex and Mark's intent.
I thought it was 30, Sal, because wasn't it 96? Yeah.
Okay, well, even worse, 30. To my knowledge, in all the years that I've worked with Alex, it's never come up. And the same with Mark. Now, was that something they had intended on? Maybe. I mean, I'm not saying that it's gonna. Oh my God, I'm afraid of the Image guys. Oh my God, it's 30 years ago. I mean, those guys don't give a shit. They were making money hand over fist. Kingdom Come wasn't even a blip on what Todd and what Image was doing at the time. So,
sure.
But is it possible? Sure, anything's possible. If my grandmother had wheels, she'd be a bicycle. What can I tell you?
Well, the Jack, who I do know his last name, is going to want a ticket. So that's I'm going to put you down, Jack. But also Liam 815. I assume that's your area code, Liam. Liam, I need your name. You can put it in the chat, but I need a full name so that we can leave it at will call.
Yeah,
and that's what's happening with these tickets and everything.
Well,
so
there's somebody there with a clipboard when you get there out in front. But I just worry that too much of that starts to become, Sal, hey, where's my ticket? I'm like, it's will call. So
no, I got to turn in my names by tomorrow morning. I know that.
We got a guy with a clipboard, so it's coming together. It's coming together.
I thought I might be the guy with the clipboard eventually. I wasn't sure because I'm working that
I don't
night.
want you for the clipboard. Put your name on there too, Don, just in case. I mean, I'll be there the whole time, but and it's supposed to be nice on Saturday, so I'm hoping that they open up the outside of the beer garden or the whatever that area. So we've got time.
Yeah, that front area. Eddie Muller brings the Film Noir Festival every year to the Music Box. And folks, if you've never seen the Music Box, it's a show place. My buddy Rob Burnett, who has been on recently talking about his audio drama True Noir, he was at CinemaCon in Vegas, where all the studios have their big presentations. It's like San Diego Comic-Con, but it's strictly industry people. It's film critics and it's theater owners. And all the stars and all the major studios show up, and they show extended trailers, like portions of movies, things like that. Sure. And the Music Box had a presentation. And Rob fell in love. He's like, oh my God. And I'm like, yeah, I know, man. I grew up with that theater, as Sal did as well.
I haven't been in a long time. I mean, I was a big film guy, through college and when I lived in the city, and I used to love to go when they had the Criterion collections and they had a lot of, 50s movies and the Christmas stuff they do with Wonderful Life and White Christmas is really cool. But I got to be honest, I haven't been back to the Music Box since I moved out of the city. So, but we used to always go. I mean, it's the Music Box is terrific. In Southport,
Yeah.
the neighborhood's changed a lot, but that's welcome to the city. That's how it is.
Yeah, but there are really nice restaurants and even just grab and go places and
Yeah,
bars. And it's a
yeah,
no, it's a happening area. It's right down, it's 2 minutes away from Wrigley Field,
yeah.
if that. I mean,
Southport.
so
Yeah.
but yeah, it's gonna be a lot. I don't even know if the Cubs are in town or not.
I don't know. That's a good point. They might be. I don't
So
know.
but there's a parking lot that's right there down the street.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah,
man,
no, it's gonna be great, man. No, and also I should say, and I'm gonna record the audio for Word Balloon, but we're doing a post showing Q&A.
yeah. No, that's why I'm glad to have you on board because they were asking, um, who we wanted to do the Q&A, and I've had many times where nobody knows what they're talking about with these Q&As. There's nothing more awkward than when you got somebody who's like, and you could, there's nothing wrong with cheating and just saying, hey, if anybody has any questions. And I know the number one question is, hey, where's Alex? But what are you gonna do? You know, where's Alex and where's Mark? But hey, you know, that's how it
Well,
goes. What do you
there
want me
you
to
go.
tell you?
No.
What
But
can
the
I
good news
say?
is, Sal will be there as the producer of the film, and Remzi Atasi, the director, will also be there.
Yeah.
And yeah. So no, I'm looking forward to it, man. It's again, it's a great movie. I can't thank you enough for letting me be part of it as one of the talking heads. And
Yeah,
it's
no, thanks for being in it. I mean, it was a when we started, we were trying to just go with some Chicago people because we were coming out of COVID, and we had put the thing on ice for 2 years because we shot a lot of footage with Alex and a lot with his dad, and then we just we hit the wall like everybody else did that spring. And we thought it was going to be, a couple of months, but it wound up being almost 2 years of just literally putting it on ice. So when we came out of it, we thought, hey, let's just try to get some interviews here in town. So they weren't all great, some of them were okay. I mean, even Alex recommended some people, and we got together a lot of the models, and some were better than others, I won't lie. But at the end of the day, we got 90 minutes of extra stuff. So anybody who wants more Wade, wants more Alex, wants more models, wants more Frank Casey or Todd or Brian or John or whoever, it's all in the extra 90 minutes. So, but at some point, John, the narrative had to move forward because some of the rough cuts you wanted to throw up because they were just too much pontificating. I mean, you can only listen to Alex talk about, or Mark or Paul Dini talk about certain subjects for so long, and then you're losing them. So
no,
some of the criticism we got internally was about the narrative. Was it always ended up, John? Hey, how come I'm not in it more? And a lot of people were saying that, and then sometimes that's why I said we the cuts were necessary cuts. They were not based on politics. They were not based on anything other than okay, it moves better now. And this was we needed it to be something that other people could watch outside of our world. So that's why, thankfully, now with the new Blu-ray format, and what the hell do I know, John? I didn't think anybody gave a shit about Blu-rays anymore. But was I wrong? You don't need two discs anymore. You could put 6, 8, 9 hours on it one disc. So I told we had hundreds of hours of stuff. So I said, let's just give them another 90 minutes of bullshit, and that's what we did.
that's great, man. No, and you're right. Well, the thing is, as we've learned with the digital market, it's happened at Amazon, not only with videos, but with books too. All of a sudden, they don't have the digital rights anymore. Oh yeah, that thing you bought, gone. And so physical media, kind of in the same way that vinyl has made a comeback. That it's a smaller market than it was when we were kids, but there is this like cinephile market for physical media, And yeah, man, and there's even these sub categories like Vinegar Express, I forget some of the names, or Anchor Bay, that take like studio films and suddenly, oh yeah, remember that 70s bail bondsman
Yeah,
movie
yeah,
that
yeah,
Jack Lemmon made, Alex and the
yeah,
Gypsy? Well,
yeah,
Warner Brothers isn't putting out, but we're putting it out.
yeah.
Things like that,
No, I mean,
so
I think some of it has to do with everything is in the air now. Everything is on the cloud. Everything is in and for as extensive as Netflix and a lot of these libraries are, there's still a lot of movies that I'll look for that aren't there. And it just so a lot of people want still want physical copies of things. I didn't know this was the case when we put the doc together. It was going to be on demand, and it was going to be streaming, because that's all I see everywhere I go is phones and iPads. So,
sure.
and theaters it's nice to want to have it in the theater. But the problem with independent films is that you got to know who your audience is and how the hell you're going to get it to them. So we started the whole film festival idea, but there's 20,000 film festivals now. I mean, and they all charge you $600 just to submit it. That doesn't mean it's in the festival, John. I got to give you $500 to consider my movie. So, we spent $4,000 trying to submit it to a bunch of film festivals, and 2/3 of them told me to go scratch my ass. So I thought, all right, you know what? That's fine. I want to get people in our circle to see it, so that's why I offered it to San Diego, I offered it to New York, I offered it to different cons, to say, hey, if you want to screen this for free. Now, some of them, they don't really give a shit, because a lot of people, unfortunately, in the programming department at shows are not necessarily comic book people. So if I'm not one of the wrestlers, or I'm not one of the guys from the MMA or any of that bullshit, they figure, well, no one's going to give a shit. So I offered it, and it looks like we're probably going to screen it at San Diego, uh, because I love the San Diego guys, and I'd love to screen it at New York, but Reed may not play ball. And then, and we're going to do it at Como next week.
Okay,
And that's
Italy.
great. But Lake Como is a small show. It's a small,
Sure.
art show, boutique kind of show. But I just want to get it out there. I didn't want to have it and then be greedy with it. Like, oh, I'm only going to give it to, no, hell no. I want people to see it.
No, I'm with you, man. Well, first of all, King Sport Cal says I buy every superhero film on DVD/Blu-ray, whether I like the film or not. He also said, "Hey, tell him Superman's a major player in Kingdom Come." Yeah, I think Sal's got that covered, man. But
He
that's
is. He is.
you know,
Yeah. So is
yeah,
Captain Marvel, for that matter. So,
yeah. And of course, as
yeah.
the comic book people in the know realize,
Yeah.
Sal is the physical model
Oh,
for
yeah.
Captain Marvel in Kingdom Come.
Changed my life, John. I can't walk down the street now. It's like a hard day's night when I walk down the street. I mean,
Aren't you Jackson Botswick
that's right. That's right.
or John Davy?
Right. Aren't you Timothy Dalton? That kind of bullshit.
Or Tom Tryon, was that the guy in the '40s Cliffhanger?
Yeah, yeah.
There you go.
I
Hey
did.
man, you're
I
in a
did a guy a
small
favor.
group, man.
Did a guy a favor 30 years ago, and it haunted the shit out of me ever since. But it's okay.
And Sal, he has like real costumes for these
Yeah.
people,
Oh
doesn't he?
yeah. No. When we shot the reference for Kingdom Come, he had it was just the top, and it was really small, and then I had to like put it on like a hospital gown because it opened in the back. And then by the time we got to Power of Hope with the Treasury edition, he had a full blown, he had a seamstress make a full blown costume, as he did with Batman, and he did with Frank Casey for Superman, and as he did for Wonder Woman. So at that point, it was years later. Uh, it was a full blown costume, and just because he wanted the folds and he wanted the sash and
Yeah.
the cape, and I had to put the whole damn thing on, and it was quite embarrassing. But hey, what are you gonna do?
Gold boots.
Gold boots. It's funny because he was living in the burbs at the time, and he had this great house, this ranch style house with these floor to ceiling windows, because he liked it because of the light. He was still single at the time, so we were there shooting photo reference stuff for Power of Hope, the oversized treasury of Captain Marvel. And so he kept on answering the phone. Now, mind you, Alex did not have like professional studio lights in those days. These were literally like the shop lights that you bought like at Ace Hardware for your dad to hang in the garage with like a raw bulb. John, and these things got to be like the French fry lights at McDonald's. They got to be really hot. So he kept on stopping to answer the phone. And I'm standing there, waiting with the costume on. And then I'm looking out the window and I notice across the street there are a bunch of ComEd guys working on the power lines. So they were like trying to sneak a peek and look in because I think they thought we were shooting a stag movie because they saw these half-assed lights. So they weren't looking in, John, like they thought, wow, yeah, they were looking in because they thought like they were going to see Marilyn Chambers or they were going to see,
where's half naked Wonder Woman walking in?
They were going to see, there was some kind of a fetish stag flick, we were shooting. And I said, Alex, we got to get this done, man. We got to finish this because these Teamsters are having too much fun over here. And they're waiting for Stacey Stacks to walk out, and
I get it.
It was just two idiots, taking pictures for a graphic novel.
Exactly. Sal, remind me because I'm going to put up a banner because people are asking how they can buy the digital copy or the Blu-ray. What's the website URL?
The power legendofkingdomcome.com. They go to the Legend of Kingdom Come. It's got a landing page.
Okay, I'm typing as we're speaking, everybody. But Legend of Kingdom Come with a K, obviously not C.
Yeah.
Who spells it with a C?
Yeah.
Yes. Dumbcom.com. Excellent. And again, an extra, in addition to the movie itself, an additional 90 minutes of special feature footage. Are you guys doing a commentary over by there?
Nah, maybe. I mean, as we move forward, John, at this point, just to get the Blu-rays out has been, a red ass, and also, if they go through Comic Book Pros or Alex Ross Art, there's tons of information there, and we're gonna have lots of cool stuff. If they go to the website, they can get the regular version and they can get all the extras and all the, because I love that stuff. When I rent a movie and they have extra footage and things, I love that stuff. So
excellent. No, you can tell, man. People are already all excited and wanna absolutely get the.
I'm pretty proud of it. I'm pretty proud of it, John, in the sense that we got it finished. I won't lie. There was a lot of time when I thought we're never going to get this done because we kept running into one thing after another. And as it turned out, COVID was actually sort of a blessing in disguise because it allowed me more time to raise more money, to kind of sock away more dough to finish the damn thing. Because even when we were done with principal photography, it's the editing that starts to take a bite out of your ass. And then, I had to put money aside for a budget to promote the damn thing and then have the Blu-rays and the music box and all these extras and the crowdfunding campaign. So every time you turn around, nobody ever sent me an email, John, that didn't have an attachment to it, and every time I'd open the attachment, I thought it was the guy's phone number, but it was the invoice that he was sending me. And so I just got to a point where I thought, man, we're never going to finish this thing, and then you got to go through lawyers and you got to go through, you got to go through all the copyright bullshit and fair usage laws and then you got to show it to people. And I'm not going to mention any names. And people were pissed. Some people wanted to change this and fix that and move, So you're ready to kill somebody. How movies get made, I'll never know, John. Honest to God.
Well, the late great director Chicagoan William Friedkin used to say 1,000 things have to go right to have a successful movie.
Yeah,
and I can appreciate that. The man behind French Connection and
or Stanley Kubrick, when they asked him what's the hardest part about being a director, he says getting out of the car in the morning. Once you get out of the car, then it's your ass. You're expected to be, and it's like everybody is. As soon as you think you're done, you're not done, and then you're gonna try. And I was fully, I had no problem with the criticism if certain people say they want it, because the problem when you do a project like this is that It has a fan base. It has a built-in fan base, and that's a blessing and a curse because people know what they want. And then I think a lot of people were like, "Hey, wait a minute, why the hell are you doing a documentary? Why don't you make a film adaptation?" And I'm like, "Well, guys, I don't have $200 million to do a film adaptation." And the original plan, John, was to make a documentary about Alex because I've been working. For those that don't know, I've been working with Alex for about 27 years. So God help me. And we were gonna no that I'm that old. My God, 27 years.
I'm hip.
And we were gonna do we've been shooting footage. If I'm covering old ground, just tell me to shut up. But we've been
No, no.
shooting footage for his social media stuff for years, with Ramsey Atasi's the director and he's my media guy. But it started to get a little stale, John. Like we were shooting footage for Instagram and Twitter and all this stuff, and you're like, okay, this is cool. This is helping the brand. But we're like, well, it's time to do something a little more ambitious, maybe. And I thought, well, let's do just a documentary about Alex, like the one Jim Demonakis did about Mike Mignola, and the one they did about Dave Stevens, and then there's the one on Frank Miller. I've only seen part of it. It looks
Steve
good.
Rude.
The
Yeah,
one
there's
on
one about
Steve
Steve Rude.
Rude. Yeah. So I thought, okay, that's easy. That's heavy lifting because there's a lot of stuff to cover in Alex's career. But
Sure.
he was not great. He was not big on the idea. He kind of felt it might be a little bit too much of an invasion of privacy, us following him around and all that kind of stuff. So I thought, okay, fine. So we pivoted to I noticed that by far, John, whenever Alex does a signing, the stuff predominantly that they have in their hand is Kingdom Come. So I thought, well, and every time we would post anything Kingdom Come related, the response was always bigger than anything else we would post. So I
Sure.
thought, well, I know where the bodies are buried with Kingdom Come. I know the behind the music, so to speak. I know,
Yeah, putting it
you
in
know,
VH1 terms,
so when
absolutely.
I found that at shows, people always love those stories about me burning my ass cheeks on a light, when we were shooting footage and who was supposed to be this character and who was that character and Alex designing the character and the logo. And, I knew all the bullshit stories. So I thought, well, if we could kind of season it up with that kind of stuff and show the art and hire, get some basic animation. Our budget didn't allow for, extensive animation, but basic animation. We can deliver on this. And
Uh,
but I didn't know it was going to take 4 years, John.
well, first of all, a couple comments from the people. Julie Benson is watching us, my man.
Oh, she's the greatest.
Yep, she
She's
and
the
Shauna.
greatest. She's her and her sister were like the class. Thank God we had them in it, because they
Yeah,
classed it up. They really classed it up. All bullshit aside, those two are terrifically talented, and we were blessed to have them in the doc. You know,
I agree,
they
man. Plus,
they did yeah.
Jimmy Palmiotti, Amanda Connor. You mentioned Polito.
Jimmy and Amanda were two of the first ones we got, and we were set up at San Diego. And my God, Jimmy and Amanda, they brought their A game. It's like
Yeah,
Jim, Palmiotti. He's like having Rusty Stop. When you start a team, you got to start with. He's like,
you and I know what that means, absolutely.
yeah, he's a
But
mensch.
yeah,
He really is. He's a mensch. And Amanda too. They were terrific. They were fantastic.
no, I'm with you, man. Absolutely. And it's also I want to point out because it is a documentary about Kingdom Come. This as Sal was saying about fair use and getting copyrights all squared away. This isn't out through Warner Brothers. This is an independent production that Sal produced and Ramsey directed and needed that Warner Brothers approval because all the Kingdom Come material, DC owns all that. So they had to
Yeah.
be agreeable
Yeah.
and approve of everything.
Yeah, and as long as you're not doing anything, you're not doing anything obviously bad for the
Yeah,
brand.
Rick Job or
Marie
allowed.
Javins and Jim Lee and everybody at DC could not have been cooler and nicer and more about it. But there's always a potential, but you still got to get lawyers involved to take a look
Sure.
because you don't want to knock at the door at 2 a.m. and find out. I'll be back at the bar cutting limes. Because I I showed too
Sal's
much.
previous job
I
as a
showed too
bartender.
much Gal Gadot in there. She's in there for like 3 seconds.
Exactly. What are you doing? Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
all of 3 seconds.
That's hilarious. Is Gal Gadot really in there for 3 seconds? I didn't remember that from when I saw the
Well,
movie.
we showed some clips of what stuff was inspired by Kingdom Come. So the new Wonder Woman armor was inspired. It was
Yes,
used in Kingdom Come. So we
absolutely.
showed that. So as long as you claim fair usage and you keep it under a certain amount of time, you literally have to hire fair usage lawyers to look at it to say, hey, you're okay.
Yeah,
Because stuff that's out there is out there now. So, but you still want to cover your ass and have lawyers take a look.
sure. Hey, obviously Kingdom Come came after uh Alex and Kurt Busiek had done Marvels at
Right,
Marvel.
right.
And do you know, in terms of the graphic novel itself, was it literally was it Alex pitching to DC, or did DC go, "Hey Alex, how about doing something like that for DC?"
Alex really wanted to. Superman was always his guy. I mean, no offense to Marvels, but Superman was his guy. That's his favorite character. And
Sure.
I think he felt that DC had really done Superman an injustice in the sense of that they made him seem out of date. They made him seem out of style. They made him seem cornball. They gave him long hair and a ponytail and the death of Superman, and then he wasn't cool anymore, is basically what they were implying. So Alex kind of felt, no, I think there's no such, like they say, in advertising, there's no such thing as a boring product, just boring copywriters. And I think he felt that he could, and he wanted to show that no, he's still the guy. And those were his characters. And so the idea of him especially with the old Fleischer cartoons, the Max Fleischer cartoons, anybody that's never seen those, my God, they're some of the greatest animation, especially of Superman ever created. That stuff out of what, John, the 30s, I think the Fleischer cartoons were.
1940.
Yeah,
1940.
1940. I mean, those are like little movies, each one of those. And so
7 minutes,
yeah,
everybody.
and,
7 minutes, and they're
they're
incredible.
they're incredible. And now they're fair usage, so you could see them on YouTube. If you've never seen them,
That's
my
right.
God, just watch one episode and you'll see what we're talking about. So he wanted to bring it, and he brought his A game. He wanted to and he was obsessed. When he was working on Kingdom Come, he had an apartment with a drawing board and a chair, and that was it. And he had pizza boxes. And so he was kind of like a fever dream when he was painting Kingdom Come. He was working on it all the time. And so anybody who he asked to help, we were of course all ready to chime in, and couldn't, we didn't know at the time. It's almost like midnight in Paris. You don't really know. But then when we started to see the pages, then we kind of felt like, okay, no, we know this guy, and he's one of the guys, and he'd already made a name for himself with Marvels. But I won't lie, I knew when I saw the pages, I go, no, this is a very special project. Even though he gave me a huge bulge, I was still a fan of the. And I won't lie, I was not fond of being picked as Captain Marvel. Only remember him from that Saturday morning TV show, and I was not fond of it. So, but I thought,
Hilarious.
if I'm going to help the guy, he asked me to help him. I said, I'm glad to help. And when we shot reference, you knew right away this was a different animal. Alex was a different animal because there was no grab ass. It was storyboarded out very dynamically, very clearly. This is what I want. This is the angle I'm looking for. These are the folds of material. I mean, we would argue whether Captain Marvel was left-handed or not. We would go into, which side the sash goes on. There was a tremendous amount of detail that Alex was following, and lots of Easter eggs, tons of Easter eggs in that book.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, truly, that was one of the fun things about getting it in the 4 prestige format issues was, my God, there's scenes at bars, and some of the background characters that's the only time you see them. There's a lot of interesting heroes and villains back there.
Yeah, yeah,
Again, if you know
yeah,
your pulp and comic book history, you're like, oh, look at that. Oh, look at
yeah,
that. Look who's there. So yeah, it was great that way. And even kind of in the same panel progression that Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons had for Watchmen, there are tip-offs of scenes where you don't realize a character may not be seen by everybody else, but he's there.
Yeah.
and then it's revealed as the story goes on. King Sport Cal wants to know. Well, first of all, and he's right. You know, we mentioned that the Wonder Woman armor in the Snyder Justice League movies inspired by Kingdom Come. King Sport Cal says they put Batman in the exosuit, which he felt was a response to Bane breaking Batman. Well, I don't know about that, but I know Kevin Conroy in that CW Crisis crossover that they did for the live action shows like Arrow and The Flash and all that, and Batwoman was in there. They have Batwoman going to an alternate universe, and Kevin Conroy on camera got to play Bruce Wayne, and he's wearing the brace.
Yeah.
And it was
Yeah.
great seeing that. No, he wasn't in the bat
Yeah.
suit, but he
Yeah.
was Bruce Wayne. And the reason why he wasn't in the bat suit was he had the broken back and everything. So,
Yeah.
you know.
And that's Gregory Peck, and he used for his Batman in Kingdom Come.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't realize that because
Oh,
he has
yeah.
more gray hair than Peck
Yeah,
did.
no,
But
that's
I can
Gregory.
see
That's
that now.
Gregory Peck. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's fantastic, man. And hell, now Tony Harris was Black Manta.
Tony Harris, yeah, my brother-in-law Ken was Red Robin. Jill Thompson plays Joker's daughter. You see her when he's holding
Zula
her.
Dent.
See her, yeah.
Yes.
Brian Azzarello's in there. My God, everybody at the time was in there. Easter eggs. His buddy Frank Casey from Leo Burnett played Superman. Was always Superman. He played Captain America on Earth X as well. I'm trying to remember. At the time, he was using lots of people for lots of reference, lots of different things. You know.
That's cool. And also, all right, King's asking good questions. How does the documentary flow? What are you talking about specifically in the doc? Give him a ballpark, Sal.
Well, we want to talk about, well, what I felt had to be was paramount was the artwork. It had to be about the artwork. We had to show people who'd never seen this what makes this a special project was Alex's art. No offense to Mark, but it was about Alex and but then we also wanted to show the process a little bit behind what went into it, how Alex kind of got the idea for it, his process of getting it started, his reaction to when it first came out, and then people there when they first saw it, their reactions to it. So we got all the models to talk about the process of being in the book, Alex's process of working with Mark. We showed us the original script and how the script went from on the page to the storyboards to the final paintings, and then we move forward into what what kind of influence Kingdom Come has had on the stuff we see today. So it's a little bit, but we have to, and also we wanted to touch we had to touch a little bit on what was going on with comics in the 90s. Because my God, John, you could do a whole documentary just about the comic world in the 90s. People who were there remember how crazy it was, how people were, going nuts over comics in the night. There were people making millions of dollars off of, small press and things like that. So we touch on that a little bit. We touch upon the dynamic of how comics exploded and how San Diego went from this little show to, to craziness. And then, some dialogue with Alex. One person actually complained why I'm in it. And I found that funny because I hadn't planned to be in it because, even though I paid for the damn thing, I didn't plan to be in it, John, honest to God, because I don't have a great voice like you, and I'm not as beautiful as the Benson sisters, and I'm not, that kind of bullshit. But one day I was sitting in for Alex. We were shooting in his house. We were shooting in his studio, and they were setting up the lights, and Alex had to go do something. So they said, Sal, will you sit in for him? And I didn't know they left the camera running. And that's when I just started bullshitting about how I met him and the story about my grandmother when I was in New York with my brother. And I think as a joke, Ramsey put it in one of the cuts. And he liked it. And I thought, really? Because I really look like Guido in my mind. My wife goes, God, why do you Guido it up in there? And then the Benson sisters said such nice things about me and all that. So I thought, what the hell? I'm like Robert Evans, the kid stays in the picture,
Atta boy. No, hey,
It's
man.
like, let me talk to Sal and see if he's okay. I'm in it for like 30 seconds. So I'm like,
No, I realize. But again, But
Leave it
again,
in.
Captain Marvel is an important part of the
All
story,
right, I'll
and
give
the
you
fact
that.
that you're,
That's why I was going to be in it, John, but I was going to shoot my stuff with all the other models. Well, Frank
sure,
showed up. Batman didn't want to be seen on camera. Don't ask me why. The guy
okay,
who he used as Batman later on in War on Crime, we were going to bring him in because he used him for some other characters. Some of the models we couldn't get. The gal who
okay,
played Wonder Woman, we couldn't get her because she's off in parts unknown. And some of the
okay,
other people we just couldn't get because it's 30 years ago.
sure.
And so I thought, all right, when we get to the models, I'll sit down and tell you my bullshit stories about Captain Marvel. And then it never happened. So I was filling in one day for Alex when I started talking bullshit, and then it just
Yeah.
stayed in the picture. So
No, it's a good. They're funny stories, absolutely, man. Well, and out here, everybody, you'll forgive my vain moment, but Sal's like, "Hey, we want you in the documentary." I'm like, "Great." Well, this was. I'm not exaggerating, folks. This was 40 pounds ago, at least, if not more. So I made sure, much like for the screening on Saturday, I got my hair cut. I made sure every hair was in place. I'll put product in for Saturday, but also I got my jacket. I don't want to look like Albert Brooks sweating his balls off in broadcast news. And Remzi, I'm like, Remzi, please just like shoot me from here to here. He's like, John, I promise you're gonna look fine. And
you look great. You look
well,
great.
Sal sends me the rough cut. Yeah, you're lovely, Sal, but truly 30 years in Chicago broadcasting, TV and radio. And every now and then, folks, you look like that idiot that I bet if we pan down his fly is open and you just look like,
Well,
you
yeah,
know
but
what, whatever.
also what it
But I
also
was okay.
was, I think where your stuff really, made took off for us was, the first edits are literally just that. They're just all the raw footage. But then with documentaries, if you just cut from, we call it talking heads, if you just cut to one head to one, but where your stuff really takes off was when he was putting your voice over images, like at the beginning of the movie. It's you over Alec, and that's when it's like, holy shit, John has got that voice, and this is, we've been when the doc when nobody knows it's you. So that's why I said we got to use more John, because the stuff you're saying was all, and you brought opinions. The problem with interviews is that everybody thinks they're fascinating, and everybody loves to hear themselves talk, John, but not everybody's a great interview. And I'm not going to mention any names, but I've had some interviews we couldn't even use in the film. They were so bad because people just don't really have anything interesting to say, or they don't really have. I don't give a shit if I agree with you or not. At least have an opinion about something. And a lot of people, when they get on there, they feel like they got to say something nice about, Now, we didn't want conflict. I mean, I really wanted Bruce Timm, because I know Bruce Timm had some polarizing opinions about Kingdom Come at the
Oh,
time when it came out. Oh yeah, at the time when it came out, he had some opinions about painted comics, things like that. So I didn't want to piss off Alex or have it become this, Hell's Kitchen where we got people fighting about why Kingdom Come sucks or whatever. But there were some that got away. John Cassidy got away. I really wanted my friend John in there. I really wanted a few in there. I won't mention names where there was some behind the scenes squabbling of who didn't want to be in it, or who we couldn't get, or whose schedule was a problem, or who was being a pain in the ass. Some people were just like, all right, you know what, leave him out. He's being a pain in the ass, so leave him out.
Now, what are you going to do? A couple more comments from everybody.
Gonna happen.
That's all right. The King says you can't hide your inner Guido. Jack says Sal has the best stories in delivery. I agree with that. Pete says, and good to see you, Peter. Sal never disappoints in an interview. Great stuff. And Rudy, very nice compliment, Rudy. John always has that sound. My voice has the sound of legitimacy. Well, as some of the Chicago people know, 30 years in Chicago radio, and a lot of narration and a lot of voiceover. So and
Yeah, no,
even making my
John.
own audio
Let me
documentary.
say
25
this.
years
John
ago.
is like Frank Vincent. He's in every Scorsese movie. So every film I do from now on, don't be disappointed when you see John in there, because it's like I said, it's more than just you on screen, John. It's how when we cut to where instead of us watching what you're saying, let's show you examples of what you're talking about. That's much more interesting. So
Yeah.
but your voice enhances those images so much to where it makes the narrative move much crisper, because I noticed that right away. That's why we used you at the beginning of the movie, because originally it was this kind of, him just painting and we were doing it. And then we had said, hey, you know what? Because originally we had this huge credits sequence that I was gonna do. We had it all laid out, and then we ran out of money. We had no money left, and I needed the money for crowdfunding and to do what we did at the end. So
Sure.
I said, I don't know what the hell we're gonna do, because I don't have money for credits. I don't have the money. We were gonna do this big animated sequence, John, with the Rocky letters going across, and it says Kingdom Come, and you know what I mean? And then
Sure.
I was like, it's gonna be great, and it's gonna be so dramatic. And then he showed me the rough cut of Alex painting with your voice, and I said, there it is. I said, but I could. It was almost like a happy accident. It was almost like when you don't have the money, you're forced to shoot duel, which is what Spielberg did. So I literally, that opening sequence is because we ran out of money, and it's one of the best parts of the doc because of your voice and Alex and the music, and it all kind of accidentally. And that was Ramsey, of course, too. But it all kind of came together. But that was because
Well,
we were out of money. So John saved us because we were out of dough.
Well, I'm looking forward to a couple of members of my family who will be in attendance Saturday night, and they get to see that I am literally the first voice you hear. Alex is the first image painting that Superman
And
image.
and we
But
didn't get to use some of your best stuff too, John. We just didn't have enough time. You gave us I don't know if you remember, you gave us a lot of good stuff.
it was, first of all, it was a pleasure. And again, like I said, I made sure that even though I was, over 300 pounds at the time, I'm like, all right, look as good
Yeah,
as
but
you
what I
possibly
loved
can.
about it was you were really fucking opinionated that day. You were really like, hey, you know what, this sucks, and you know what and I was like, okay, go. Because you don't always get that. Everybody's always afraid of looking like a certain way, on camera. And you were very opinionated about a lot of different
Well,
things that day.
as people have said in the chat, this was a milestone book, and it was now, because again, Sal, you're right. The '90s was this very weird decade for comics. It started off boom, it ended bust, and '96 was kind of in the middle of that. And
Yeah.
I don't know how
Yeah.
close it was near the fall, or if things were still riding high
It
when
was
Kingdom.
right when it was towards the when it was cresting. It was
That's
still
what I thought.
crazy
Yeah,
popular, but it was starting to like level off
sure.
where a lot of these guys were missing deadlines, Dale Keown and Liefeld and a lot of those guys, that stuff came out of the gate gangbusters, and then it just kind of
Tapered off.
it started to taper up because they were making a lot of money and they were doing a lot of cons, and then when they were doing all those cons, they weren't getting their deadlines done.
No, I hear
So,
you, man.
but
Yeah,
but I mean, the day we had you in there, we had three other people. I'm not going to tell you who the other three were. Two of the three we couldn't use. They were so bad. They were so boring. I mean, I wanted to saw my own head off in two of the interviews where I was just like, why are we wasting time with these two? And I think that some of them are in it for maybe don't fart because you'll miss them. I swear to God. I mean, if you clench your cheeks too tight, you'll miss these guys. They're in it that quickly.
but that's what happens, man. It's you're fishing with a big net, and you got to see which you're the good fish and which aren't, in
Yeah,
terms
but
of finally putting it together.
Brian Polito was 1,000% accident. We had to go out to we had to
All right.
go out to Arizona because Todd, his schedule opened up, and his assistant, they couldn't have been nicer to us, said, yeah, Todd's available if you want to shoot Todd. And I said, of course. So we had that weekend, and we said, let's go. So I flew Ramsey and Sean, our cameraman, to Arizona, and we shot. Normally you try to fill the day. You try to get other guys. Just as long as you're there, you may as well spend the money. And we got Todd, and Todd was terrific. He came dressed nice. I could tell we were in good shape when he came dressed in a suit and he was ready to go. And like you, he was very opinionated. He had a lot of shit to say. And then we had a day off, and I said, well, who else is out here? And then I remember Brian from all his great crowdfunding campaigns, and
Sure,
my
Lady
God,
Death and the
Evil
like.
Ernie, and I know,
Yeah,
my God, all the stuff they did with his independent stuff going back to the 90s. And I said, well, let's see if we can reach out to Brian. And I don't know Brian. We're not on a talking basis, but we waved at each other for 20 years at shows. And
sure.
so he's like, sure, come out. And he's got his own, little world out there. My God, he's got his own publishing, little, empire. My God, it's crazy how beautiful it is. Brand new buildings and all that. And he could not have been cooler. And he gave us terrific stuff. And so it was another one of those, like you. It was you didn't know going in, but you walked out going, "Wow, that was some great stuff."
That it's the best feeling. Again, I know whether it's doing a great podcast interview or a great panel or whatever, when it's like, man, that was really, really special. So I know that feeling, and I can imagine what you and Ramsey were feeling as you were gathering the good interview footage and stuff. And yeah, man, happy accidents. You don't.
You
Some
got to
some.
shoot. You have to shoot 12 hours of footage to get 30 good minutes. I mean, that's literally what it is. And
Sure.
but with you guys, with you and Todd and Brian and the Bensons and Jimmy and Amanda, there was so much great stuff that I was almost like making checks of like, gotta have that, gotta have that. And we just couldn't fit it all. So I said, we gotta do extras. And I wanted to do a whole reel of just the outtakes because some of the outtakes were terrific of everybody swearing and dropping stuff and talking shit to each other and making fun of each other. But, we got to worry about, but in the extras, there's a lot of great stuff.
That's excellent, man. And I haven't said Mark Waid's name enough as the co-creator of Kingdom Come. And I remember when it was, I think it was either the 20th or the 25th anniversary when DC put out the new special edition and stuff. And Mark came out here and we did the signing in Skokie and hung out and everything. And no, it was great to having the two of them together. And
They did a great one. I remember they did a great one at Golden Apple. Ryan was also the owner of Golden Apple. It was a terrific interview. Could not have been cooler at the Golden Apple. Ryan, I know him from seeing him at shows, but we've never actually hung out. He was another guy who was a terrific interview, and he had all this. His father had this scrapbook collection of images from when Mark and Alex did the signing out there at Golden Apple, the other store, and so that was great to be able to show that.
That's another wrinkle to the documentary, that not only do you have the comic creators and you have guys like me and comic book historians as well, but you do have some great store footage, and even one of the stores you see a book club in action discussing Kingdom Come, which is pretty neat. Am I right? Right, Sal? I'm not misremembering that.
We were able to pull a lot of that stuff off of. We started collecting a lot of footage from the '90s just to see it because, and then we found that there was a lot of great stuff on YouTube and on the internet that's fair usage. And I think a lot of people, especially people outside the comic industry, just don't realize how crazy it got. And how many, carpetbaggers, people outside of the business were coming in and buying comics because they thought it was going to be, I'm going to send my kid to school, that kind of thing.
It is crazy, man. And, you're right. I mean, it was getting to the point where any new number one was a healthy six-figure release. And I know some of our friends who were getting bites of the Marvel apple back then as a writer that aren't today. And they made a nice chunk of change because of all that speculator money.
Yeah.
But and then I got to be honest, Sal, that's what kind of turned me off from the hobby during those years, because it became more about the hologram covers and the foil covers and all the variants.
Well, there was also a lot of bad stuff too, John. Forget about just the product ripoffs. They were hiring a lot of bad guys. I mean, you could almost start a collection of bad comics. There was a lot of bad stuff. But there were some good guys that fell through the cracks that you were like, wow, like Travis Charest and some other guys that were like, wow, who are these guys that were really, like I think of Travis, I think of Stephen Platt, I think of guys that were just like, wow, who's this guy? And or like Ron Garney, Lee Weeks, Brandon Peterson. I'm thinking of Steve Epting, guy who went cross-gen, Claudio Castellini, guys I was introduced to through the craziness of all this extra hiring. But then the other side, there was a lot of shit,
Yeah, no, I agree. King is talking about the holo covers and the trading cards and all that nonsense. And in fact, he even said, speculator market, he got $9 for his Spawn #1 in 2006. Wow. Crazy.
Good for you.
I get it, man. Well, yeah. Well, again, Sal, you and I are passionate about baseball, and there's that great baseball documentary about a guy who owned a couple trading card stores, and he had back when Jose Canseco's rookie card was like $500, and today you're lucky if you get $50 for it.
Yeah, there was
Because
some of
that's
that. The Death of Superman. I knew people that were buying 50 copies, and thought it was the same with Spawn #1 and
X-Men #1 with Claremont and Lee.
Wildcats, and and they were
Yeah.
buying stacks of them, and it's like, well, okay, good for you.
My friend a couple of years ago, he is a sports memorabilia dealer, and he said, "Hey, I got a line on I can get like a warehouse full of comics that are like 10 cents each." And I go, "What kind of comics?" He's like, "Oh, from the 90s." I'm like, "They're not worth 10 cents each." I'm like, "Don't
Well,
even bother."
there's what really kind of is disheartening to me, John, and when people go, "Oh, I got an old comic book collection," you go, "Okay," and you're like, "It's stuff from the '90s." I mean, old comics to us are stuff, like Silver
Right,
Age, and
50s, 60s.
not even Bronze Age, Silver Age.
Sure.
And I grew up in buying, and they don't even know who Jack Kirby is. They don't know who John Buscema is, or Gene Colan, or John Romita
Nope.
Sr. And it's sad that they don't know who Gil Kane is, and Tuska, and what are you going to do?
Yeah, that's all right. I know, but and again, it this is what happens with these things. And again, I well, like that baseball card documentary I saw. The guy showed up with all these 80s and 90s cards, and this is in the 2000s. He's like, "These are vintage cards. They're 40 and 30 years old." And the guy's like, "No, vintage is this," and he holds up a 1955 Topps Mickey Mantle. He goes, "That's
Yeah,
vintage, pal.
yeah.
You just got old that nobody wants anymore and stuff." And again, that's key issues. Everyone is speculating, but no, Cal, I think I've talked about this. Now, you were in the city, I was in the burbs, but then in the 70s, right by the Skokie Swift, there was the News Depot,
Oh yeah.
which was like in a strip mall, hole in the wall little newsstand. But in the back, they had all these old 60s and 70s back issue or 60s back issues. And I can't tell you how many 80-page giants I bought for $2 a pop. I wish I kept better care of them
Yeah.
because they were for a song. And now they're like, $20 cheap.
Well, it's what I tell people, with art, original comic art, and the same with comics. It's like whatever you're gonna collect, whatever it is, buy stuff you like, because then that way, no matter what happens, at least you've got stuff you like. There's nothing worse than a guy like me who invested money, or I didn't, but if I were to invest money in baseball cards, I don't give a shit about baseball cards. What the hell would I do with them now? I mean, I wind up throwing them away. At least with comics, I don't care. I've never bought comics as investments. I buy them because I like comics. Art,
Sure.
same way. I buy art. The art I've bought over the years is stuff that I like to display it and show it, and But I tell people, I go, buy stuff you like, man.
I hear you, man. Rudy says if you buy the stuff you really enjoy, you won't go wrong. Sal, they were asking what's in your rack, your spinner rack behind you.
That's stuff I grew up with. All the 20-cent stuff.
I see
This-
Gollum there.
yeah,
Fantastic Marvel
that's a
monster.
great John Romita Sr. cover. Killdozer.
Sure.
I mean, Thor, my God, this stuff was like, this is the reason I became an artist. It's John Buscema Thor, Weird War. I used to love Old Man Kubert, was one of my favorites. Tuska, Iron Man was my favorite. Of course, Luke Cage was my guy because I grew up in an Italian neighborhood. Iron Fist, the burn stuff.
Oh yeah.
I grew up in an Italian neighborhood, and if you didn't get to the Stoya's drugstore the day the comics came out, it was picked clean except for Archie. Well, in an Italian neighborhood, nobody was going to buy Luke Cage because you bring home a black superhero and your father sees it in an Italian household, it's not going to fly. I couldn't give a shit. It was just a superhero was all I wanted.
No, he's cool.
I didn't want Archie. I didn't want Little Lotta. I didn't want Baby Huey or Dennis
Sad
the
sack.
Menace. But we sad sack. So what was left was Western, or all these great Gil Kane covers of Amazing Fantasy or Monsters, Where Monsters Dwell. But you open them up and they were 1,000-year-old Kirby stories on the inside, which were terrific. But I got hooked on Luke Cage. That
Sure.
Tuska was drawing, and then Billy Graham took over, and so that's why to this day he's my guy.
Tuska, I loved his Iron Man with the notch in the faceplate. So
Oh yeah,
it's not a flat surface. There's a little notch for his nose,
yeah. See, I
which
got
always
him
cracked
here.
me up.
I got these little cages.
You
I
got
even
an
got
Iron Man
this
out
little
there?
cage that I found in Italy. And Kid
Oh,
Cole,
that's cool.
Black Goliath. You know,
Sure.
those are my Daredevil. I love Daredevil when he was with Black Widow, the Gene
Oh yeah,
Colan run. Gene Colan, I
yeah.
was a big fan of whatever Gene Colan did. And but yeah, no, Billy, I mean Tuska when he was doing Iron Man. And then Pollard when he was doing Iron Man,
He's a great artist. Absolutely, man. That's
Yeah,
very cool.
yeah.
That's hilarious.
So
Oh
I
man.
keep the spinner rack just because it reminds me this is how I started buying comics was when they were on a spinner rack.
Oh
And
yeah. Did you
you know,
get? Did you? Is that one of Jimmy's Demonakis spinner racks or no?
no, this was I bought this on eBay about 15 years ago. And then I had it in my studio, but I brought it here, and my wife, of course, she's got a problem with me having it in the living room, so I brought it to my studio. I'm down in my studio, so hey, what are you gonna do?
Compromise. That's all right. That's all
Yeah,
right.
it's life is all about compromise. Like
Oh, I
John
get it.
Candy, said. What is it? Like your job, love your wife. That. That kind of
Now you're going to Lake Como, Italy next week for a big convention, well, a good sized
Yeah,
art convention, and you're
yeah.
bringing the movie there.
Yeah, yeah. Steve and Arno, who are the runners of Como, they asked, say, hey, let's do something with and would you be willing to do something in Como? And I said, sure. I mean, I've done Como now. This will be year 3, and it's fantastic. So I thought, sure. I mean, it's a little close. This time of the year, things are getting a little hairy because everything is so close together. But Como's a good show. And I thought, yeah, sure, why not? Let's do it. So yeah,
That's
we're gonna
beautiful,
show it
man.
in Como. I don't know if we're gonna have a huge crowd or anything, but it's all right, whatever.
No, I hope so, man. I hope they come out and see it because again, folks, I'm kidding. I'm not kidding. Not just because I'm in it. I see a lot of documentaries. I talk about a lot of documentaries on Word Balloon. I only talk about the good ones. And yeah, I'm in this, and Sal's been great. And Sal, as you know, and Alex are sponsors of Word Balloon. That's clear. But truly, this turned out great. Ramsey did a hell of a job, and it's great to see. And honestly, I do get submissions of documentaries that people make, and some people are still out there with the camcorder, in Artist Alley, and God bless them. And I don't mean this in any negative way, but it's like, hey, you got to up your game, man. There's a lot of quality documentaries about the hobby, and you're competing with real filmmakers like Ramsey, like what Demonakis was able to do with the Mike Mignola documentary. I
Yeah,
just had the guy on who made the mini series of Selling Superman about his
yeah,
dad's
yeah,
collection that he never
yeah,
knew about.
yep.
I mean, there's great stuff, man. And to the not only that, but even the Brazilian Canadian filmmaker I just had on who made a movie in Portugal, a half English, half Portuguese superhero movie, and it turned out great. And it's like, okay, well, that's where the game is now, man. It's you got to up your game.
Well, we just feel that um it's important. I mean, this is I've never apologized for this stuff. I love comics. I've always loved comics. I've never been embarrassed by it. It's been something that is I always wanted to be a comic artist. I mean, I didn't get into the business to work with Alex or be an exhibitor or be a filmmaker, even though I wanted to I went to I worked in advertising and all this other kind of stuff. But I always wanted to be a comic artist. But I felt that when we started doing this, I felt you never approach it from the point of view of making money. You have to approach it from the point of view of this is something I love and I want to do, and then it just kind of flows well, and you do a good job at it. And but you got to be really patient and just say okay. And with Kingdom Come, I felt hey, it had a built-in audience, so I wasn't trying to put something out there completely foreign to everybody. And having worked with Alex a lot of years, I thought, hey, we have an interesting take on this. We have an interesting angle on it, and we're gonna keep doing them. I mean, I got another one in the works now that's really near and dear to my heart. And it's this next one's gonna build on this one. So
That sounds great, man. Well, and also, again, Saturday night, everybody, here in Chicago at the Music Box Theater, just a stone's throw away from Wrigley Field. I'm not kidding. You're only a couple streets away from Wrigley. Saturday night, 7 o'clock. The Legend of Kingdom Come will have a Chicago screening at the Music Box. Sal will be there. The director Ramsey will be there. I will be there conducting the Q&A, and actually, several of great comic creators. So it's almost going to be almost like a mini artist alley of some of the comic creators that I hope who've said that they're going to be there. And yeah, we give away a couple tickets tonight too. Jack and Liam will join us as well, and I appreciate that. All right, King is asking, and I'll let you decide how much you want to answer of this, Sal. He wants to know if the next project is a DC project.
It's an artist project. It's solely about an artist.
There you go.
Anybody that knows me, you don't need Scotland Yard to figure out who the artist is. You know, I only deal with two guys.
Do the math.
This one involves Alex. Look, it's not a secret. It's Bill Sienkiewicz, and I feel that we're years away because there's a million things between now and then, but we've got a lot of footage and we got a lot of stuff. But I just feel that Bill is people are going to look back 30 years from now and go, holy shit, you guys had Bill Sienkiewicz. What the hell? Who was this guy? Why? He's magnificent. It's like Midnight in Paris, where you don't realize at the time how great these people are. And Bill is, in my mind, he was a game changer in my life as an artist. He showed me what was possible in terms of he thought outside the box. And I've been working with Bill now for over 20 years, and I'd take a bullet for Bill. He's the greatest. And every time he sends me a new original, I marvel at his talent, and he's a sweetheart. But what I love about Bill is that, well, the unfortunate part about Bill, why I found a documentary about Bill would be crucial, is that, John, you forget how a huge period of his career is gone forever because he fell when they started to film. They used to shoot comics by film. They used to film them. They used to take a photo of them or stat them. Well, all that stuff got lost when the computers came in. All those files got thrown away. So there's enormous swaths of Bill's career that copies don't exist. That's why no definitive art book has ever been made on Bill, because of all of his New Mutants. And think about Elektra and Moby Dick and Jimi Hendrix and Daredevil and, my God, Moon Knight and all those great Mutants covers and all those great. So now in a film, we could show all that because you could take comic books and literally photograph the comics and then through digitizing, cleaning them up. So I can show you Bill's entire career, which I feel is important to do.
And that is something that you've already played with in Alex's documentary.
In Alex's, yes, correct.
So, because not only Alex's stuff, but stuff that inspired Alex from the Bronze Age, and you were able to clean up some interiors and covers and things
correct.
That way.
Yeah, I just feel that that there's one thing I know about working with Bill, and is that there's a lot, and people at shows will walk by and they don't know who Bill is. They don't know his work. They've never, but they'll look at a painting and go, I don't know who that is, but that's cool. And his work from Jimi Hendrix and his, my God, Moby Dick is a masterpiece in my mind. And Straight Toasters and all the Batman stuff he's done since, and all of the movie stuff he's done, and all the Spider-Verse, he did all the designs in the Spider-Verse film. It goes on and on and on. So I don't know, John, if it's going to be one long doc or a two-parter, but we're diving into it now. And it's something that is going to take me years, but it's near and dear to my heart. And I feel that I don't give a shit if it has an audience or not. There needs to be a documentary about Bill Sienkiewicz.
I get it, man. And also because both Alex and Bill are painters, but Bill's style has gone off in this very weird impressionistic way that I remember back when I was reading Amazing Heroes every month, in a lot of ways, the inspiration for Word Balloon. And I'd read these letters to the editor going, who is this guy? Why is this guy drawing New Mutants? I hate this style. Oh, whatever. And then they all caught up and they suddenly realized, actually, we're getting fine art for 35 cents a month.
Yeah.
This guy knows
Yeah.
what he's doing.
Yeah.
You know?
No, you it's like Jimi Hendrix, you can't listen to it until you finally get it. And then when you get it, you're like, wow, who is this?
Genius.
What are we listening to here?
Yeah.
And so that's how I feel about Bill. And it's going to take, again, this stuff takes time because you want to get the right group of people, you want to get the right angles, you got to digitize a lot of art. You've got to do, there's a lot of research involved. There's a lot of people you want their take on it. Then I want to get we've got a lot of footage of Bill, but we need a lot more. And so it's something that, you know, it's going to take some time, but it's important.
I think it's another great project, Sal, and
Yeah.
I wish you luck with it. Rudy says about Kingdom Come, I haven't been this excited about an art-related documentary since Frank Frazetta's Painting with Fire, another fantastic documentary. And I know you're a Frazetta guy. You met him.
Yeah, I met him at a Glenn Danzig party, of all places. Yeah, because that was one of my first San Diego's, and I had no money. I had $40, John, to last me all week at the party, and I slept in a bathtub that year and used my shoe wrapped in a towel as a pillow. And we were at the Doubletree at Horton Plaza with 11 other guys staying in a room. And by the time you got into the room, there was no floor left, so I had to sleep in the bathtub. Now, mind you, all 11 guys kept coming in and using the bathroom while I was in there sleeping. Mind you, nobody said, "Hey, let the guy sleep. Let's not go in." And
No, God forbid.
Yeah, I went to the party and I ran into Frazetta. Who would have guessed? Yeah.
But that's the great thing about San Diego. I remember my first San Diego. Thomas Jane was doing stuff for my buddy Tom Nagovin, who you got to know in the last year or so.
Yeah.
And they were having a big party for Bad Planet, a book
Sure.
that
Yeah. Him and Bradstreet. Bradstreet. Yep.
Yeah, Tim Bradstreet. Yes. And so at that party, and I was friends with Bradstreet from college. That's where I met Joe Jusko and Frank Darabont, the filmmaker.
Wow.
Walking, all the great Stephen King adaptations, and of course, Walking Dead. He was
terrific,
one of the original
terrific guy. I met him a couple of times at San Diego. He came to the
booth.
It was a big art buyer. He bought a lot of paintings over the years, and terrific guy. And the only reason I met Frazetta was I didn't have any money, John, so I went for the buffet. There was this huge, he had it at US Grant, this huge penthouse, because Danzig was making money hands over fist in those days with Veronica. Remember Veronica?
Yes,
he had the comic book company, and he was using Frazetta's covers. So I went in, and it was all hookers going at it. I mean, they were literally dildos. It was something out of Caligula, John. It was just like, it was debauchery like you've never seen debauchery. It was like the golden calf scene of 10 Commandments. It was, and I didn't care because I didn't have any food. I was eating trail mix at the Doubletree all week. So when I walked in and saw they had a cheese platter over in the corner with some prosciutto and some salami, I made a left. And everybody went for the hookers with the eggplants and the drills and everything that was going on over here. So I was the only guy there, and I turn around and there's this old guy with pipes. I mean, built like a brick shithouse, John. And I look up, and it was Frazetta. And he's like, "You're not interested in the entertainment, huh?" And I was like, "Nah, I was starving." So I was loading up. I was like Dustin Hoffman in Midnight Cowboy, John. Load up on the salami. Yeah, Rats. Yeah. And then like Batman, when I look back, John, he was gone. He was gone. I don't know what happened to him. I don't know where he went. I don't know. But I think he probably just made an appearance out of respect for Danzig, and then he was gone. But
that's hilarious.
It was pre-stroke for Zeta too, so he was still kind of all there. He wasn't.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
Folks, honestly, Painting with Fire is on a double DVD with the animated movie based on Frazetta's ideas, Fire and Ice, that Jerry Conway and Roy Thomas co-wrote. The animated movie. It's kind of like Heavy Metal if you don't remember Fire and Ice, but it's all set in caveman times. But yeah, it was Ralph Bakshi and Frank Frazetta who made the animated movie, but you also get this amazing documentary about Frazetta. And man, what a story! Oh my God! And what a genius artist! My God, we were
Oh
lucky.
yeah,
We were lucky to have him.
everybody was inspired by Frazetta. I don't think there's anybody who wasn't, you know, he didn't have an effect on. He was the guy. He was Mount Rushmore. Him and for me it was Kirby. But if you were a painter or if you were you leaned into the fine art of comic, then it was Frazetta. There was Frazetta and everybody else.
Well, and Frazetta's the man that made Conan relevant again, starting with his Robert Howard paperback
Yeah.
covers,
Oh,
and
sure.
then
Sure.
Marvel got the license, and we got all Buscema and everybody else doing great Conan work. To this day, my buddy Jimmy Zub is the Conan writer, and Titan Books spares no expense to get the top guys they can to do incredible Conan art. And again, I think all that can point back in the '60s when Frazetta was doing the reprints of the Howard paperbacks and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah. I like what Rob is doing now. Della Torre, that's the guy from Spain, is doing with Conan. I mean, everybody.
Sure.
It's obviously there's comparisons to Buscema, but I love what he's doing with Conan. I mean, he's more than just doing a Buscema riff at this point. He's really really good artist.
I agree with you, man.
And I'm a big fan. I like what he's doing.
No, and honestly, I mean, I always appreciated Robert Howard and stuff, but the great art and Jimmy's stories are really making me excited and everything. Here, Jeremy says, once again, loving the stories. Thanks for the entertainment. I think he's talking about you, Sal. He's not talking about me.
Oh,
So
John, it's your show. I'm just talking about
I just get out of the way, Sal. I let you guys spin. That's all right.
days of debauchery, at San Diego, because everybody now is like, oh, but Sal, you got the big bill. I'm like, guys, you don't want to know about the early days of Comic-Con, when you just went there and you just needed to get to Comic-Con. You didn't care how you got there. You didn't worry about how you were going to eat, and you didn't even know where you were going to stay because you wound up sleeping on floors and doing whatever.
Well, there's still kids that I notice, and it always cracks me up, but God bless them for doing it. And thank God the weather's always nice, that are camping on, the lawn of the convention center and stuff. And they got backpacks and sleeping bags and stuff. And they're roughing it and stuff. So, they'll walk over to Ralph's and pick up some food for the day and everything.
Yeah.
So, they're still doing it the old school way. But no, you're right. It's a cleaner, more friendlier, trying to be a family friendly event than Danzig's Hooker Days.
Well, you could do that stuff when you're young too.
Sure.
When you get older, I can't sleep on floors anymore, John. I can't live on trail mix anymore. So I'll stay home now. If I can't afford, I just stay home. But when you're young, you can get away with that stuff.
Absolutely.
You can do whatever. You don't worry about the consequences. You don't have a structured day. You just kind of wing it and do whatever.
Absolutely. Kirby Crackles. Absolutely. He does. Yes, indeed. Sport Cal. But also I want to remind everybody too that The Legend of Kingdom Come is available as a digital copy or a Blu-ray. You want the Blu-ray though, because you really want to get that bonus footage as well. Extra 90 minutes of interview material on the DVD or the Blu-ray, I should say. And you can buy it at the website legendofkingdomcome.com. And there will also be copies available next week at the Lake Como Comic Art Festival in Italy. And, of course, this Saturday, May 10th, that'll be at the Music Box. And I will be there. And Sal and Remzi, the director, we're going to show Kingdom Come. And then afterwards, there'll be a great Q&A with the audience. And I hope you can join us. That's Saturday night, 7 o'clock at the Music Box Theater on the northwest side of Chicago. Just a stone's throw away from beautiful Wrigley Field. And it's going to be a great night and a great movie. And again, Sal, thank you for letting me be a part of the movie and being a part of this.
Thank you, John. I mean, you enhanced everything we did. I mean, and all bullshit aside, it really was. I mean, it was, I wanted to, again, started out wanting to get a lot of Chicago guys that I liked, and then it turned into be much more than that,
Well, I'm glad to help, man. I'm glad I was able to help. Everybody, thanks a lot for watching and listening. Tomorrow night, we're figuring out the logistics, but I'm going to be on the Splash Pages podcast, and we're going to be talking about the Age of Ultron miniseries that Marvel put out years before the movie that Brian Hitch and Brian Bendis put together. and that's going to be a lot of fun. And then on Wednesday afternoon, I'm going to be talking to Brian Bendis and about the Phenomenon series of graphic novels that Abrams has been putting out. And Brian, and forgive me, I forget Brian's wonderful artist from Spain. We'll be doing that in the afternoon to accommodate Portugal time. But that's going to be a lot of fun. We're doing that on Wednesday. And Thursday, we're going to have Kari Andrews and Mark Guggenheim, because they're taking over Spider-Man and Wolverine. So we're going to talk about that. They'll talk about their individual books as well. All that coming this week on Word Balloon Live. So until then, thanks for watching and listening. Stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy.